Good morning, my friends. I have an introduction to make to you today. This is Lucia. Lucia is my new old dulcimer, and I just wanted to show her off. Now, the story of Lucia begins a number of years ago. In 2005, I bought my first, actually it was my third dulcimer, but it was my first full-size professional grade hammered dulcimer, and it was a Dusty Strings model D35. Later on, I bought a bigger one, a Dusty Strings D550, and once I had two, then they needed names. Before then, it was just my dulcimer. However, like I said, once I had multiples, they got names. And so my first full-size dulcimer, the D35, became Maria, named after my mother. And the one that followed, the D550, I named Antonietta after her mother. Now the problem is that Antonietta doesn't fit on airplanes. And so Antonietta has been my main instrument for a lot of festivals and domestic events and things that I can drive to, because she will fit in the trunk of my car. And Maria is the one that flies. However, Maria is really kind of the workhorse. Which means that I've played her very, very hard. And Maria ended up with so much damage to the finish that when I sent her back to her maker to be refinished, I got a little bit of a lecture on proper care and feeding of an instrument, as well as, most importantly, tips on how I could refinish her myself, which I have been doing in order to take care to make sure that she gives me another 15 years, at least. However, because Maria has been so velveteen rabbited and so thoroughly loved, I thought it would be prudent to have a backup. The problem is that Dusty Strings discontinued the model D35. They replaced it with what they call the model D45, which has some very small and subtle changes, but I hate them. I really do not like the changes that they made to the D35 in order to make it a D45. And so I have been scouring eBay for 10 years looking for another model D35. I found one in a music store probably 2007, 2008. I found a used one in a music store. And I said, I paid $800 for a new instrument and $700 for a used one seems kind of steep. And I've spent 12 years regretting that choice, thinking that that $700 used instrument would have been a good deal to make sure I always had a backup for Maria. And so I've had a couple of eBay searches that were saved on my computer, and then every now and then I'd get an email and I'd be like, oh, they want $800 for a D35, and that's kind of steep, and I don't have it right now because, of course, having seasonal work means that there are times of year when I have more money and times of year when I have less money. Which brings us to last March. I'm at the beginning of my season, the world is gearing up, and I have an eBay search that comes back and says, hey, someone is selling their dulcimer, their D35 Dusty Strings dulcimer, for $350. And the reason it's so cheap is they're not willing to ship it and they live in New Jersey. But I know people in Jersey. I do the Tuxedo Renaissance Fair in New York. So I called some friends and I said, could you pick up this dulcimer if I win the bid? And they said yes, and I won the bid. No one else bid on it because they weren't shipping it. And so for $350, I managed to score this beautiful, pristine instrument that is exactly what I wanted and everything I needed. And the next week, my eBay search term, my saved search history that look for all D35s on eBay, brought me up another hit that was for $1,400 they wanted. And so I felt like I made out extra. And so now I have Lucia, who is named after my mother's grandmother. I'm continuing up the Italian line with Maria, her mother Antonietta, and her mother, Lucia. And now, of course, the car alarm starts in the distance, just when I'm about to get to the musical part of the show, so I'll talk for a few more minutes. Please disregard the sun glare behind me I'm trying to block with my head. By the way, this is my COVID cut. And of course, being myself, the tune I played first on Lucia and the one I'm going to play now is Labyrinth. The first song I ever wrote, or at least the first song that I ever wrote that made it into a permanent part of my repertoire. And still the first song that I like to play whenever I'm feeling nervous or anxious or have stage fright. I have to say that a new instrument might not have been my best idea right before the world shut down due to COVID, but I of course didn't know that at the time. And then it took months for me to get to my dulcimer when I was in the area for other reasons and got a chance to pick her up. Just last week, thank you very much, my friends. I appreciate all your support. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you are staying safe, staying healthy, and staying happy. Be well.